You've spent decades building up £500,000 or more, targeting a retirement income of around £31,300 a year. That's the PLSA's moderate standard for a comfortable retirement outside London. It covers your bills, a 2-week European holiday, and eating out a few times a month. Sounds like everything you planned for, right? But there's another number that nobody talks about. Roughly 1 in 3 retirees struggles emotionally in retirement. Not financially. Emotionally. They have the money. They just don't have themselves. That's about 32% of people who hit their financial target and still feel lost, purposeless, even quietly depressed. I've been working with people approaching retirement for a long time, and I'll be honest with you, this number stopped me. Not because it's surprising in theory, but because I kept seeing it play out in real life. People who had done everything right, pension sorted, house paid off, freedom arrived, and within a year, something was deeply wrong. In this video, I want to show you exactly why that happens, and give you a structured 90-day identity audit that separates who you are from what you did. Because retirement isn't a number on a spreadsheet. It's a psychological transition, and most of us are completely unprepared for it. That 32% figure comes from research by Flying Colours Advice, drawing on data from Forbes Health, and what it tells us is something financial planning has been slow to accept. The problem in retirement isn't usually the money, it's the person. Here's the cause and effect chain. Spend 40 years or more fusing your sense of self with your job. Your job gives you 5 things simultaneously: identity, structure, social contact, purpose, and a daily sense of progress. On the day you retire, you don't just leave your employer, you leave all 5. And a pension pot, however well funded, replaces none of them. Your job title has been your psychological safety net for 4 decades. Remove it, and you're standing on a floor that isn't there. Now think about the numbers around this. The PLSA moderate standard is £31,300 a year. That's not a small amount. And 11% of over 50s, about 1 in 9, return to work after retiring, according to legal and general research reported by the CSPA. For most of them, it isn't financial pressure. It's that they couldn't stand the emptiness. So why does this catch people off guard? Because the emotional preparation for retirement gets almost no attention. The financial press is full of articles about drawdown rates and annuity decisions. And those matter. But the question nobody asks is, who are you when the work stops? And here's the cruel part. The retirees who struggle most are often the ones who thought they were most prepared. They had the pension sorted, the plan in place, the early retirement party. They just forgot to plan for who they'd be when the work stopped. I think that's worth sitting with for a moment. You can do everything financially correct and still fall apart psychologically. That's not a failure of willpower. It's a failure of preparation, and it's a failure the financial industry has largely ignored. If you don't want to be part of that 1 in 3 statistic, subscribe now. This channel exists to help you retire with purpose, not just with a pension. The standard advice you hear is, retire to something, not away from something. It sounds right, but it's too vague to actually use. What does that mean in practice? Travel more? Take up golf? That advice gets you through the first 6 months. It doesn't get you through the next 20 years. What you actually need is a structured process for untangling your self-worth from your career before the emptiness sets in. I call it a 90-day identity audit. It's not therapy. It's not a corporate exercise. It's a deliberate, phased approach to figuring out who you are when the job title is gone. I used to think that if someone had enough in their pension and a few hobbies lined up, they'd be fine. Then I saw the data, 32% struggling, and started paying closer attention to what separated the people who thrived from the ones who drifted. I was wrong about the hobbies being enough. The numbers don't lie, but they don't tell you how to protect your identity. So here's how the 90-day audit works. The first phase is days 1 to 30. It's the decompression month. No commitments, no projects, no urgent plans to fill your time. But there is one daily discipline, a journal. Each day, write answers to these questions. What did I love about my work? What did I hate? And, the most important one, what part of my identity is tied to my job title? This isn't navel-gazing. It surfaces the hidden losses, the things you didn't know you'd miss until they were gone. The second phase is days 31 to 60. This is the experimentation block. You schedule 5 to 8 low-commitment activities that have nothing to do with your old career. Volunteer at a local charity shop. Take a free taster course in something completely new. Join a walking group. After each one, ask yourself 2 things. Did my energy go up or down? Did I want to come back? Discard what drains you. Keep what doesn't. The third phase is days 61 to 90. This is where you commit. You take the 2 or 3 activities that scored highest and start investing real time in them. Join a membership. Book a course. Commit to a weekly meetup. Now your diary starts filling with things you chose, not things your employer assigned. Let me give you the rough risk comparison. If you skip this audit entirely, you're starting retirement in the same category as the 32% who struggle emotionally. The audit costs you 90 days of honest reflection. The cost of not doing it is potentially 20 or more years of a retirement that never quite feels like yours. But what if you're already retired 2 years in, and that emptiness has started creeping in? The audit still works. It isn't designed only for people who haven't retired yet. It's a process, and you can start at any time. It's never too late to rediscover who you are. This problem didn't always look the way it does now. In the defined benefit era, when most large employers ran final salary pension schemes, retirement had a built-in structure. You left your company, you received a fixed income, and you still carried the identity of being a former employee of British Rail or ICI or whoever it was. The company's pension told you who you were, even after you left. Defined contribution pensions changed that completely. Now the entire burden, financial and psychological, falls on the individual. There's no gold watch that doubles as an identity anchor. There's no employer structure to soften the landing. It's just you, your pot, and a blank diary. And here's why that matters over a much longer time frame than most people realize. According to the Office for National Statistics, a 65-year-old man in the UK can expect to live to around 84, a 65-year-old woman to around 86. That's roughly 19 to 21 active years after you stop work. Retirement coaches and specialists often describe 3 phases: the honeymoon period in the first 1 to 3 years, when everything feels like freedom, a reset period, where the novelty wears off and the identity gap starts to show, and then a settled phase, where people either find their footing or don't. The reset period is where the 32% show up. It's not the first week of retirement. It's 18 months in, when the travel is done and the decorating is finished, and you wake up on a Tuesday morning with no particular reason to get up. When you see retirement as a 20-year arc rather than a single event, it becomes obvious that just find a hobby is dangerously insufficient. You need a system for the whole arc, not just the first chapter. Let me describe 2 retirees. Same pension pot, £500,000. Same age, same general health, different outcomes. The first retires without doing the identity work. The first year is great. Travel, freedom, a kitchen renovation. Then around month 18, things go quiet. The diary is empty. The former colleagues have moved on. The golf course fills Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday through Friday feel like wading through fog. Loneliness sets in slowly. Research from Science Direct, reviewing the evidence on retirement and health, found that lower engagement retirement is associated with decreased physical activity and increased risk of depression, and it tends to compound over time. Andrew Kent retired from his role as an NHS manager at 55 and was so lost within 2 months that he started a business just to give himself a structure. The money wasn't the point. The identity vacuum was unbearable. The second retiree does the 90-day audit, not perfectly. Nobody does it perfectly. But they enter retirement with a plan for the non-financial side. They find 2 or 3 things that genuinely engage them. They build a new social network around shared interests rather than shared work. Their mental and physical health holds up better. They have more flexibility over how they spend the next 20 years because they haven't drifted into habits that are hard to break. The financial pot is identical either way, £500,000. The outcome is entirely different. One retiree funds a rich life, the other funds a purposeless one. The difference isn't luck, it's the 90-day investment in knowing who you are outside of what you did. If you feel a quiet dread at the thought of losing your job title, you're not being dramatic. You're not weak. You've simply been conditioned for 40 years, and your brain has done exactly what brains do. It has fused your identity with the role that gave you status, structure, and a sense of survival. There's a name for this in psychology: identity fusion. After decades in a career, your job isn't something you do. It's something you are. And when that role disappears, the loss can feel disproportionate to what's actually happening. It can feel, in a quiet way, like a small death. Most people find it deeply uncomfortable to say, "I used to be," instead of "I am." I've seen this happen with people who had everything: big pensions, paid-off houses, real financial security, and still fell apart when the structure was gone. That's why I pay so much attention to the non-financial side of retirement. The money matters enormously, but it doesn't protect you from this. The cognitive shift that helps is this: move from "I am losing my identity" to "I am becoming someone new." Your working identity isn't something to discard. It's a foundation, the accumulated experience and character that you built over decades. What you're doing now is adding a second floor, not demolishing the first. The audit creates the conditions for that transition to happen deliberately, rather than by accident. So now you understand the trap and the psychology behind it. Let's make it fully practical. Here is exactly how to run the audit. Step 1 is the decompression month, days 1 to 30. Do not fill this time with productivity. Resist the urge to immediately start a new project or take on commitments. The instinct to stay busy is usually a way of avoiding the deeper questions. Instead, keep a daily journal and write honest answers to 4 questions. What did I get from work that I'm scared to lose? This could be status, routine, daily social contact, a sense of challenge. What did I genuinely enjoy? What would I happily never do again? And what part of how I introduce myself in a room is tied to my job title? These questions surface the hidden losses, the things you didn't know mattered until they were gone. Step 2 is the experimentation block, days 31 to 60. This is where you schedule 3 to 4 different activities each week. Each one must be low cost and carry no long-term commitment. Volunteer for a morning at a local charity shop and notice whether you feel energized or flat. Take a free taster session in something completely unrelated to your career: a pottery class, a basic photography workshop, a community choir. Join a walking group and pay attention to whether the social dynamic lifts you. After each activity, rate your energy and enjoyment simply: up or down, come back or not. Discard the ones that drain you without hesitation. Step 3 is the commitment phase, days 61 to 90. You take the 2 or 3 activities that scored highest and start putting real time and, where it makes sense, a modest amount of money behind them. Join a membership. Commit to a weekly meetup. Book a course. Now your diary fills with things you chose. I worked with a retired engineer called Peter. He had spent 40 years designing bridges. His whole identity was built around being the person who built that. After the audit, he discovered he had a real gift for teaching maths to teenagers at a local community center. No income. But every time he talked about it, his face changed. That's purpose. That's what the audit is for. If you want to make sure you don't miss what comes next on this channel, hit subscribe now. The biggest risk in retirement isn't running out of money, it's running out of yourself. The 90-day identity audit is your insurance against being part of that 1 in 3 statistic. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. You just need to start the process. I don't know every detail of your situation, and I won't pretend this audit solves everything, but I know this. Over 30 years of working with people going through this transition, the ones who flourish are the ones who deliberately designed their next chapter. They didn't just fund it, they built it. The ones who drifted and assumed things would fall into place mostly didn't flourish. Not for want of money, but for want of direction. You have earned this time. The question is what you do with it. Hit subscribe and join a community that takes the non-financial side of retirement seriously. Because the second half of your life can be the best half, but only if you build it, not just fund it. Go start your audit.